The fact that Boris Johnson is not a very good leader is not a very controversial thing to say. In fact, as you may remember, at least partway through the year, even though Boris was bumbling and stumbling his way through lockdowns and not putting lockdowns, will he extend the furlough, won't he extend the furlough, there were at least some Conservative supporters out there who were willing to at least say, oh, it's alright, it's a hard time, give him a chance, it's just hard at the moment for old Boris, he'll come through. Now, I am willing to bet, you cannot find anyone out there who is willing to support Boris Johnson and say that he has done a good job trying to lead Britain through this crisis. And here's the thing. This crisis is not just for Christmas. It is going to be with us for months to come. Because, oh boy, have we got some crises coming down the pipeline thick and fast. So, before we jump into the article, please do hit that like and share button, and of course there is my link down below to my Patreon page, as well as a one-off donation link, and thank you very much to the people that do support me that way. So, let's get into this, shall we? So, the title of the article is, "This crisis isn't just for Christmas, but for months to come, and Britain needs leadership." It's hope that gets you there in the end. Had the nation been told that at the beginning of December that Christmas wasn't happening this year, then obviously it would have been a blow, but we'd have all coped. Plenty of families had already made the mental leap towards staying at home, and judging by the uneasy reaction to Boris Johnson's initial promise of a super spreader 5-day of mingling, the more could surely have been persuaded. But no, our leader's Christmas gift to a nation already at the end of its tether instead decided to get everyone's hopes up and then stomp on them at the last minute. When families had spent money some couldn't afford on food that won't now get eaten and tickets that can't be used, unpack your bags, Professor Chris Whitley said. If you are planning a getaway, unravel your plans, uninvite the people you would let yourself look forward to seeing, unpick the stitches that were stopping some people coming apart at the seams. But miserable as all this is, recent events have blown a hole in rather more than just the nation's plans. This crisis isn't just for Christmas, but for months to come. Cynics may see this news of a new, more contagious mutation in the virus as a little more than a political cover for yet another embarrassing, inevitable U-turn. It's true that opposing or even scientifically advising this government must feel like shouting into in an infinitely deep cave. You know it will have to echo your words eventually, but generally around a week too late. And did Johnson really have no clue this was coming on Wednesday when he ridiculed Keir Starmer for suggesting Christmas plans be cancelled? But it's unfair to dismiss the pioneering scientific work so lightly. Scientists at the newly established COVID-19 Genomics UK consortium have worked fast and furiously to identify an important part of the explanation for why a lockdown, supposedly one thing we know works, didn't work well in November, and failing to buy us as much time as been hoped. If this strain of the virus is 70% more contagious and growing fast as percentages of all cases, then we will need to work far harder to actually contain it. That raises the possibility of tactics that used to work now losing their effectiveness. Just as doctors have to increase the doses of morphine as a patient gets used to it, restrictions may need to be deeper or even longer just to have the same effect. So, if you were likely to be under the cosh of the rest of winter and spring, or however long it takes for the vaccines to bring relief, the crush at London train stations on the night of the lockdown news broke suggests that some have no intention of being trapped again. Already, there is speculation about second homeowners hampering out of the city to the Cotswolds or Cornwall or anywhere else that the new strain isn't rife. but soon probably will be. Half thinking about it that way, and the way they want to hunker down for the long haul, this year has taught us that what other countries do is far more reliable guide to the future than what our own Prime Minister says. And one by one, other European countries, not to mention Wales and Scotland, are heading for full national lockdowns. It's easy enough to sketch out what should happen now. First, Downing Street should stop pretending that Britain could cope with a no-deal Brexit on top of all this. You handle a virus with all the skill of a man painting a bus he'll never catch and expect the world to believe that you have hidden gifts for crisis management that you obviously have chosen not to use before. Oh, please, just do the damn deal. Lift one worry off the nation's shoulders and free your cabinet to focus on questions raised by a potentially very fast-moving stage of the pandemic. And can schools realistically stay open throughout January in the worst-hit regions? And if not, can exams still happen this summer? To put it politely, it seems unlikely that the mass testing system teachers have been told to suspend their Christmas holidays, conjuring up from scratching using staff who seem to exist largely in Gavin Williamson's head, and will be running in time to take the strain. Should students who have gone home for Christmas to places where the new mutation is rife return this January to universities where it isn't? Can the vaccine be rolled out faster or even further? Economic forecasts will need revisiting, when retail and hospitality potentially need fresh bailouts. And would it be madness now, given the likely consequences for jobs, to withdraw the pandemic benefit top-ups in April? Yet, all this requires a government capable of carrying its first mutinous backbenchers, and a second, if an extended country, with it down a long, hard road. It becomes a cliche to blame Johnson's personality and need to be loved for his inability to. There we go. And need to articulate two unwelcome truths or make painful choices. But this small Prime Minister stands on the shoulders of smaller men, on whom he depends for a parliamentary majority, more fragile than the numbers suggest, and they too deserve a share of the blame. The hard Brexiteers are so often also COVID skeptics is no accident. The same reluctance to face reality and the same stubborn conviction that if they shout loud enough, then somehow they'll prevail, underpins both ideologies. They are people who put Johnson where he is now, and who could bring him down tomorrow. The country's fates now rest on their capacity to change or his ability to turn on them. And that is a scary prospect. Is a very, very scary prospect. Because he is right. Like I say, these COVID denialists and the Brexiteers are one thing. They are free market fundamentalists. And at the end of the day, they don't care if workers go back to work and catch the virus, so long as they're, the business is turning over and making a profit. They don't care. Let people die. And that's the argument that they're making. Even though they're literally saying, let people die. That is the argument that they're pushing forward. And it is very, very worrying. And because Johnson is not a leader, he will never, ever have the gall to try and turn around and try and get them under some sort of control. Because we saw how that worked out for David Cameron. So, there you have it. Hard times, as I said, hard times definitely ahead, and none of it's going to be good. And there are just more and more crises, just sort of those we went through there. And it's going to be bad, really bad next year. I dread to think of some of the crises we are going to face with Johnson in charge and his cabinet that he's got of just bunglers is the best way to describe them. In fact, bunglers is too kind a word. I'm sure I could come up with a nicer one. Omnishambles, to quote Malcolm Tucker. But other than that, as always, thanks for watching. Please do head down below to a link to my Patreon page and a one-off donation link. Thank you for the people who support me that way. And of course, do hit that like and share button on your way out. And of course, thanks for watching and have a happy Christmas. And we'll hopefully see you all very soon.